Very good evening to all of you. Thanks for joining us here on The Big Story. I'm Afrida Rahman Ali. Top story at this hour. Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrived in Japan on a two-day visit to attend a summit of the Quad leaders, which is aimed at further bolstering cooperation among the member nations and discussing developments in the Indo-Pacific region. The PM addressed the Indian diaspora as well in Tokyo. While addressing the community, the Prime Minister said the two countries are natural partners and that Japan has played an integral role in India's Vikas. Earlier, the Prime Minister interacted with top executives and CEOs from over 30 Japanese companies at a roundtable in Tokyo. And while speaking at the launch event of the IPEF in Tokyo, the PM said that India will work for an inclusive and flexible Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, or IPEF, with trust, transparency and timeliness being the key to the economic framework.
भारत और जापान नेचुरल पार्टनर है। भारत के विकास यात्रा में जापान की महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका रही है। जापान से हमारा रिश्ता आत्मीयता का है, अध्यात्म का है। जापान से हमारा रिश्ता सहयोग का है, अपनेपन का है। और इसलिए एक प्रकार से इस रिश्ता हमारा सामर्थ्य का है, ये रिश्ता सम्मान का है और ये रिश्ता विश्व के लिए साझे संकल्प का भी है। जापान से हमारा रिश्ता बुद्ध का है, बोध का है, ज्ञान का है।
Well, meanwhile, Times Network's Madhav spoke to the members of the Indian community on the Prime Minister's speech and his vision. Let's listen into their reactions.
This comment we also heard in Modi's Denmark and Germany event also, and this is the same thing in Japan, because this is an inspiration that basically now everybody knows, all Indians wants to go to the foreign and just see the Europe and Americas and all these things, and also come to the Japan. But now it's a time that we should invite them in India, because India is a progressing country now.
So for me it is the net zero, which he mentioned about the clean energy sources. So as India and Japan enter into the nuclear deal in 2016, so I am very much looking forward for the very progressive outcomes of this nuclear cooperation.
Okay.
Yeah, and including the hydrogen fuel cells. Okay. Even in Japan, we are running the buses here based on hydrogen fuel cells.
Okay.
So we are in the semiconductor business and manufacturing in India under the India Manufacture Program. So we are just, we started our initiative in Bangalore. We are going to expand it, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi's idea was excellent, and he just gave us a great inspiration.
He's a man of vision, as we always see, and today also he proved that correctly, because he touched upon so many different topics within this small speech of him, right from how India emerged as a lifesaver after Corona shock. Then he introduced or explained us how India's culture and Japan's culture resembles by naming benzaiten.
India and Japan, genetically they are connected to each other. Okay.
Why do you say that?
Why? Because, the culture is same. Okay, the friendship is same, that's what I feel actually. So when they are genetically connected, it is easy for us to connect in many ways.
And well, the countdown then begins for Prime Minister Modi and US President Joe Biden's crucial bilateral talks ahead of the Quad Summit. The Indo-Pacific Economic Framework and the Ukraine conflict will be on the agenda. Remember, India has been a strong proponent of dialogue between Russia and Ukraine for a peaceful resolution of the conflict.
And tomorrow we're going to meet with our fellow Quad partners, Australia and India, for our 4th Leaders Summit and our 2nd time meeting together in person. The Quad is showing the world that cooperation among democracies can get big things done, and I'm grateful for your leadership. And thank you for bringing us all together again to keep driving our progress as we advance a positive vision for the future of the Indo-Pacific region.
Meanwhile, in another international location in Davos, Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister Jagan Mohan Reddy made his first address at the World Economic Forum. With a focus on healthcare systems and specifically on Andhra's health sector, the CM highlighted the processes adopted in the state during the pandemic's peak that led to the mortality rate being one of the lowest in the country. To improve the health infrastructure in the state, among the steps being taken, 16 new medical colleges and teaching hospitals are being established, which will also help in improving doctor-patient ratio. The Chief Minister said that the state government has mobilized $2 billion over 3 years for the healthcare sector.
We conducted almost 44 rounds of house-to-house survey. We had a robust system in place with the village secretariat at every village, a volunteer system for every 50 houses. We had 42,000 ASHA workers, also the volunteers dealing with health issues be present. So that was one of the primary reasons as to why we could cut the mortality rate. Even though the country's mortality rate was 1.21%, our state's mortality rate was the lowest in the country, 0.63%. We have come up with our own insurance scheme. It's called YSR Arogyashri scheme. So what we have done is we've scaled the number of procedures to 2,446. From 1,000 what the central government supports, we increased that to 2,446 procedures. And practically we have distributed cards to 1.44 crore houses. And we've increased the limit for the eligibility of this card to income limit of 5 lakhs per annum. So anybody whose income is less than 5 lakhs per annum is eligible for this card. And 1.44 crores out of the total households of approximately 1.5 to 1.53 crores cards that households that we have, 1.44 crore cards are covered under this scheme. Okay. And the last 3 years, we've helped almost 25 lakh people get treatment free of cost here.
In other news, education has indeed become the latest casualty in the political face-off between the Aam Aadmi Party and the BJP in the national capital of Delhi. This after Delhi Commission for Women claimed that there are shocking irregularities at the Delhi civic schools. The BJP has alleged that the AAP government is not releasing funds to the civic bodies that has led to poor maintenance. According to DCW, these irregularities were exposed during a surprise check. DCW Chief Swati Maliwal herself was leading this inspection drive, where she said used syringes and drugs were found on the school grounds. There were no security guards at some schools. Her team reportedly also found that some schools lacked toilet facilities and students were forced to defecate even in the open. So now the Commission has issued a notice to MCD Commissioner in this regard and sought a detailed action plan by the end of this month.
So we've been receiving a lot of complaints against MCD schools in particular, and I made some inspections, surprise inspections in 4 schools in the past 2 days, and it was really shocking because I have come to believe that MCD is running literally horror homes in Delhi in place of schools. In Keval Park, in the school that we visited, there was this one building which is having around 800 students, and right next to the building there is a board by MCD which says that the ceiling of this building is damaged, please stay away from it. So if you're supposed to stay away from it, then how is it that 800 children are being taught there? Anytime that building can fall over them and a huge mishap can happen. So why is it that MCD is acting in this way? We also saw a lot of used drugs, syringes, alcohol bottles, cigarette, gutka, wrappers in the grounds inside this particular school.
Inside the premises of the school?
Yes, inside the grounds of the school. And when we asked the principal, so she said that she did not get time to really go and see that portion of the ground of the school. We also visited a school in Bhati Mines, and the toilets were closed. They were locked, and the children were forced to openly defecate because this particular toilet has been locked for many years now. We also spoke to the Safai Karamcharis who said that this toilet remains locked.
Let me go across to Alok joining us live. Alok, this is in a way shocking, especially given the fact that the Delhi government has actually projected how the government schools and the education model of the capital city is something that the world should learn from. However, in MCD schools, as it turns out, the facilities are quite substandard. Camera has caught some of those pictures. In your understanding, what exactly is the real picture? What is the ground reality when it comes to these schools?
Well, yes, absolutely. The situation of these schools, especially the MCD schools, where the kids of the poor people are studying, it's completely pathetic because it's not the new thing. Everybody knows about the fact that the schools of the MCD are not well maintained, and the maintenance are very poor. In fact, many of these schools are not having the fans and other electricities as well. As Swati Maliwal has also pointed out that in schools there was no security guard. Remember, there was an incident happened 2 weeks ago. There was in which two girls were sexually molested when a man entered inside the school at that time when the school was running. Means that the teachers were present in the schools, but there was no security guard. And now in her inspection, where she visited 4 schools, which include South, East, and North. There where she is saying that there were no security guards. So definitely the things has not changed within 2 weeks. And yes, in that case, the police had registered the case. The accused was arrested, but the situation remains like the similar.
Yes, Alok, so, very quickly, but is it true then that the Delhi government-run schools have all the facilities, they are quite up to the mark, whereas the MCD-run schools, which the BJP is running, do not have all the facilities? Is there a stark difference between both these kind of government and state-run schools?
See, as far as the two kinds of units, means that one is Delhi government-run school and the other is the MCD-run school. Remember, the MCD-run schools are up to 5th of class. However, the Delhi government-run schools are up to from 6th to 12th of the class. So this is what the difference of the Delhi government-run school as well as the MCD-run school. Okay. But yes, there is the little difference. But not in every school. Yes, Delhi government project, which is run by Aam Aadmi Party, that their schools are doing well and they have made swimming pools and so many things they have done. But they have in fact turned it a model school. But not every school. If you go outside parts of the national capital, means that those schools which are located in the serious part like Narela, Bhawana, in those areas, the government schools which are run by the Delhi government, the situation is similar, and there also the teachers are not available. Sometimes there are a lot of sealing also happening, and seepage happening, as well as the water logging kept happening in these schools as well. So the pictures are same. Definitely, we can say that both the agencies, both the parties are kept highlighting the negligence of the schools which are there by the administration, by the MCD, by the Delhi government. But yes, it is the children who are the sufferers, and definitely it needs to be rectified.
Absolutely. This is the Delhi Commission of Women Chief Swati Maliwal who's actually doing this inspection. Alok was bringing us the details of the ground realities when it comes to the municipality schools in Delhi, the lower grades, the junior schools. That is the situation that was found by the DCW chief. Thanks very much, Alok, for giving us the details. In other news, it's been 2 days that the centre slashed excise duty on fuel, but politics continue unabated. This time, Union Petroleum Minister Hardeep Singh Puri waded into the controversy, fueling it further in a way. After 4 states, including Maharashtra, Kerala, Odisha and Rajasthan, cut VAT on fuel following centre's move, Union Minister Hardeep Singh Puri took to Twitter to slam these opposition rule states. He said that Rajasthan, Maharashtra and Kerala are trying to claim undue credit for the actions taken by the centre. Meanwhile, Bengal CM Mamata Banerjee also had her own take on the matter. She claims that Bengal is giving the highest rebate when it comes to petrol and diesel. Important to note that Bengal has not cut VAT so far on fuel, even after Centre's recent move.
এই ট্যাক্সটা রিবেট করার জন্য আমরা 2 টাকা 80 রিবেট করার জন্য টোটাল কনসেশন ট্যাক্স নিয়ে 1 টাকা 80 এবং টোটাল রেভিনিউ লস ইন ক্রোর পেট্রোলের জন্য হচ্ছে 273 কোটি 0.8 পয়সা আর ডিজেলে হচ্ছে আমাদের লোকসান 368 কোটি 37 পয়সা অর্থাৎ 641.45 ক্রোর আমরা কিন্তু লস করছি রাজ্যগুলোর রেভিনিউ থেকে।
Turning our focus to the state of Kerala, high on literacy, high on human development index, including female life expectancy, also one that claims to be a matriarchal society. Yet this is the state that is reporting dowry debts every now and then, exposing the dark underbelly of the most educated state in India. A Kerala High Court has convicted the husband in the Vismaya case that drew attention to how prevalent dowry is in the state of Kerala. The court also convicted Kiran Kumar, the husband, for offence of dowry related to harassment under the Indian Penal Code. So let's tell our viewers that we are talking about the case of 22-year-old Vismaya, an Ayurveda student who was found hanging in the bathroom in her house in Kollam in June 2021. According to reports, a day before the incident, Vismaya had sent out WhatsApp messages to her relatives over the alleged harassment by Kiran over dowry, along with photographs of bruises on her body. So Kumar was arrested in June 22nd last year, but was granted bail by the Supreme Court in March this year.
For the major offences charged by the prosecution, 304B, dowry death, 498A, harassment, and 306, avertment of suicide has been found, and accused was found guilty for these offences, and his bail bond stand cancelled. Question on hearing will be conducted tomorrow, and only thereafter we can know what is the sentence.
തെറ്റ് ചെയ്തു 100% തെറ്റ് ചെയ്തു കോടതിക്ക് നല്ല ബോധ്യമുണ്ട് കാരണം അതിനുള്ള തെളിവുകളെല്ലാം ഉണ്ട് അതെല്ലാം അവൻ്റെ ഫോണിൽ നിന്നുള്ള തെളിവാണ് അപ്പോൾ അത് കോടതി നല്ലവണ്ണം സമ്മതിച്ചു അതിനുള്ള ശിക്ഷയാണ് കിട്ടി ഈ ശിക്ഷയെന്ന് പറയുന്നത് നമ്മളെ സമൂഹത്തിൻ്റെ ഒരു മെസ്സേജും കൂടിയാണ് എല്ലാവർക്കും ഇതൊരു പാഠമായിരിക്കട്ടെ എന്ന് പറയുന്നു അതെ ഈ ശിക്ഷ ഇത് തന്നെ മതി ഇത് തന്നെയാണ് ശിക്ഷ മതി കുഴപ്പമില്ല
Kiran Kumar, a motor vehicle inspector, and Vismaya, who's a bachelor of Ayurvedic medicine, BAMS, got married in 2020 in the March, March, and it was on the 21st of May 2021 that Vismaya was found dead under mysterious circumstances in a bathroom in her husband's house. The very next day, Kiran Kumar was arrested by the police. Now, abetment to suicide is a charge that's been raised by the prosecution right from the beginning. Initially, Kiran Kumar and his family has denied all the charges. But remember, the most important part of the investigation was that just 9 days after the marriage, that Vismaya had sent an audio clip to her father, clearly explaining about the kind of torture which she was undergoing at her husband's house in Kollam, where she was verbally and physically been abused, and all these things. This particular audio clip which she has sent to her father just 9 days after the marriage was the most crucial piece of evidence.
With that, let's take a short break. But coming up on the other side, we are going to talk about how India is battling the plastic menace. And the state of Maharashtra has taken the lead in the World Economic Forum, with Minister Aditya Thackeray signing the Global Plastic Pact. All of that coming up in just a bit. Welcome back. Let's now talk about the big focus story. The use of plastics is deeply embedded in our lives, in literally everything from grocery bags and cutlery to water bottles and sandwich wraps. But the quest for convenience have really gone too far, and we have failed miserably in managing the plastic waste. So what has happened over the years is wasting valuable resources, harming the environment, plastic overconsumption and mismanagement of the waste that is generated. And all of this has led to overflowing landfills, choking rivers, and threatening marine ecosystems. This has had a negative impact on many critical sectors. What we are going to show you are pictures from Char Dham that we covered only yesterday. And this will give you an idea on what is happening even as we speak there as the devotees gather to reach the holy places in Kedarnath. This is the way the waste management is happening in Char Dham. And the authorities claim that the number of devotees who have turned up this year are way too high for the local administration to manage the garbage. Therefore, what you find are garbage heaps, mountains of it, that has literally ruined, polluted and contaminated the purity of the hills. This is a recent example, but what we are going to talk about really is the fact that this entire issue has impacted many sectors. Tourism, shipping, fisheries, and Southeast Asia has emerged as a hotspot for plastic pollution because of the urbanization, rapid urbanization, rising middle class. Consumption of plastic products and packaging is growing by the day. But the local waste management infrastructure in our country has not been able to keep pace. So resulting in this mismanagement that I've been talking about, COVID-19, of course, has exacerbated the situation due to increased consumption of masks and sanitizer bottles. It has only made matters worse. So we will talk about all of this, these important issues, and particularly with regards to how do we address it. Now, is the leadership awakened to the situation? To a certain extent, yes. And therefore, we will talk about Maharashtra's initiative in the World Economic Forum, the kind of plastic action partnership plan that is being initiated and signed up already by the Maharashtra government. But let me therefore introduce our guests who are joining us tonight. Let's welcome Afroz Shah, environment activist, joining us from Mumbai. And also we have with us Doctor. I'm just going to introduce our second guest in a bit, but let me quickly go to our my colleague Charlene, who is with us right now, and she will explain to us the context of this entire plastic menace. So, Charlene, what I want to understand from you is that this has been building up. This entire menace has been building up over the years. For our viewers who are not exactly familiar why this is such a menace, take us through what is single-use plastic all about, why is it such a menace, and where do we stand currently in plastic waste management?
Afrida, addressing the first question, what is single-use plastic? Now, all of us are guilty of contributing to this plastic menace. So, for example, food packets, wafers, chips, your coffee stirrers, water bottles, soda bottles, bags, plastic bags, straws. I think this is a part and parcel of everyone's life. And if you are using even one of this product, you are contributing to single-usage plastic. So what is single-use plastic? It's disposable plastic which can be used only once and it has to be disposed. So for example, straws, they're not reusable straws. If you're using reusable straws, well, then hats off to you. But if you're not, then yes, you are contributing to single-use plastic, which is of course hazardous to the environment. Apart from that, how much plastic does India actually generate? Now, according to data, 25,940 tons per day of plastic waste is being generated by India. To put this in perspective, imagine you have 1,030 trucks, with each truck having 25 tons of waste. That much high is the generation of waste by India. 1,030 trucks with 25 tons waste each. These estimates are of course by the Central Pollution Control Board. Now this is answering your second question. Now let's go on to your third question, which is what happens to plastic waste. Only 9% of all plastic waste ever produced has been recycled. Imagine, just a meager 9% has been recycled, while there is a whopping 95% that still lies choking the planet. On the other hand, 12% has been incinerated, 79% accumulates in landfills, dumps, or the natural environment, and of course 8 million tons of plastic end up in the world's oceans every year. So this is a threat not only to human life, it's of course a big threat to marine life as well, because about 8 million tons of waste is choking our waters, thus posing a threat to marine and human life by and large. Back to you.
Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll keep running the data on our screen so that viewers can continue to look at those figures, how staggering they are. Let me welcome Dr. Vikas Maurya as well, who's Director and of the Department of Pulmonology from Fortis Hospital, who's also with us. Dr. Maurya, I apologize for not introducing you earlier. So Afroz Shah and Dr. Vikas Maurya with us on the program. I want to begin with you. Afroz Shah, since you're working on the ground and you have a first-hand experience of what exactly is the plastic garbage generation like in a city like Mumbai, give us an idea. What has been your experience like? I know you've been active in many beach cleanup initiatives. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Afrida, for having me on the show. First of all, I must tell you, we use the word plastic very loosely, actually, plastic pollution. And that's where leaders, the law and the enforcement of law gets shunted below the carpet. You see, I define plastic in two forms. What Shalini said was right, single use, but single use also has two components, the difficult plastic and the easy plastic. When I say the easy plastic which is easily recyclable, like the PET bottles. You see, it's got a value. If it's uncontaminated, if it's picked by rag picker, it all gets recycled, except for the cap and the label on the PET bottle. But the difficult plastic, which actually, the law must address, where, collaborations between the government, the citizen, and the corporate should happen, is where the difficult plastic is. Take, for example, shampoo sachets. And this I speak purely from my experience on the ground. Shampoo sachets, 1 rupee, 6 ml, 5 ml are packed and given. Even if you catch hold of that plastic before it enters the landfill or the ocean, you can't recycle it. Actually, the world is at a loss at this point of time to understand what do you do. And you have these FMCG companies sending it by truckloads every day out. So the problem is with those difficult plastic, and I must give it to the government of Maharashtra, and especially Aditya Thackeray, on signing this agreement at Davos. And the word rightly used there is action. The world talks a lot, we act less, we are talking all the time. And what I have seen for 8 years when I work with hundreds and thousands of people living in the slums, where there's no waste management, there's no concept of circular economy, we require lots of hands, lots of action, a lot of good laws, a lot of enforcement of good laws. And it must address the difficult plastic first, instead of going for the easy plastic, which are PET bottles, Frida.
Yes.
So that's the bottom line. These packs will work beautifully if you go for the difficult plastic.
Yes, it's important to understand these distinctions that you're making. I also find the word partnership interesting, the global partnership part of it. In terms of how we are all connected in this planet, and everyone is together in it. Dr. Vikas Maurya, your understanding of how damaging this is, health-wise, how damaging is it for the lungs? Why is it such a big deal? Give our viewers an understanding how important it is to restrict plastic pollution, because the repercussions, the ill effects could be huge.
I think we have to understand that plastic, I think, is one of the most, nowadays in this age which we are living, is causing significant amount of health effects on the individual. When you're asking me respiratory, I would say it's not only respiratory, it affects all the organs of the body. And we are exposed, while it is being, extracted, transport, during, because during manufacturing, during consumer use, and during waste management. And this can cause significant effect on us by inhalation, ingestion, and by coming in contact to the skin. It can affect all organs of your body, your nervous system, reproductive system, respiratory system, cardiovascular system, kidney, liver, skin. It can cause, various types of cancers, arthritis, chronic inflammation, and developmental disorders, neurogenetic disorders. I mean, you can name so many. Then when you talk about respiratory, obviously it can be, after inhalation, it can cause significant inflammation in your lungs, in your airways, causing, asthma attacks, asthma-like symptoms, cause chronic inflammation in the lungs, leading to, fibrosis, and can also cause cancers in the lung as well. So if you can see, it's a microplastic, which we can't even see, it's not the visible plastic, because plastic, when it's get degenerated, it forms microplastics in the water, or in the soil, or it can be inhaled or ingested.
There's a bit of a disturbance in your audio, Dr. Maurya. Unfortunately, we'll have to leave it at that. The important part you're telling us here, this contamination happens at all levels: air, water and soil. Afroz Shah, Dr. Vikas Maurya, thank you for giving us a clear perspective on this very important issue that we are covering today on the plastic menace, the kind of initiatives that are being taken, but there is a lot more that needs to be done. Thanks very much for joining us. Let's take a very short break here. News and updates continue on the other side on The Big Story. Stay with us.